Nathan, a lot of interest around Jordan and his status going into this weekend. Can you give us an update?
Yeah, came out of the game pretty well. He's had a fair bit of training, so we'll consider him this week and look at the balance of the squad this afternoon.
So has he been medically ticked off that he could play?
Yeah, he completed the game pretty well. Obviously, first game back in VFL, but there's a bit of a trend in AFL at the moment about blokes coming back off no real match practice. So being able to get enough work in sort of in the program in club, I suppose. So we've seen it with Rioli in round 1, Taylor Walker in round 2. So we have to make a judgment call on our boys based on what we know about the work they've done internally.
Where does that come from? Why do you think that's changed? It's just sports science has gone to the next level.
It's probably when you've got 4 blokes on the bench and limited rotations can affect it a little bit, but you can manage game time. You can have guys come in and play probably as little as 60% and still maintain the structure of your team and not compromise it too much. And it depends on what role you're asking guys to play as well. But I also think that sports science got fairly well measured. There's not much that the boys miss in the medical and the high performance teams, and we know our athletes better than anyone. So whether they can take that step up, the intensity of the VFL game last week was actually quite high when you compare the GPS to an AFL game. Or to a normal VFL game, so that was encouraging. Having said that, it was a bit one way.
And is Elliott in a similar boat? You've been pretty conservative with him, and you looked like he played brilliantly on the weekend.
Yeah, he did. He played well. Billy didn't complete training today, so we've got to measure that up as well.
Is that just soreness?
Yeah, we believe so. We anticipated him to finish the session, but he didn't. So that goes into the mix as well, and that'll be part of our decision making.
Just on Jordan, I guess Jamie to an extent as well. Your medium forwards have been giving you a lot of production. Does that make it a little less straightforward in you?
Well, it's a little less straightforward because we've got blokes that are playing role. We've only won 1 game of footy. We're 1 and 2, but we've individually, our guys have actually been fairly diligent in playing the way that we're looking for them to play, and we've actually defended okay. Bar last week, the second half of last week. So we've got a lot of players at the moment that are actually contributing pretty well and putting their hand up. So that makes selection a little tougher, but it's a good problem for the match committee to have.
Just to clarify on Elliott, sorry, Jen.
Yeah.
He didn't hurt himself or anything? Like, what happened?
No, he's sore and didn't finish the session.
Taylor Adams also didn't finish training, looked a bit uncomfortable when he came off. Is
there
any doubt?
Well, you'd have to be if you haven't finished the main session, but we think he'll be all right.
What was the problem with him?
Sore.
Same.
Yeah, just tighten the back, gets it periodically, yeah.
And with Elliott and his soreness, is that with his foot or?
No, I don't know precisely what it is.
You've been building quite a lot of consistency. It's been an issue over the last few years, but probably 11 out of the 12 quarters that you've played, you've had real consistency in effort. Is that fair?
Yeah. I mean, and effort's one thing, but we need application to task and to role and execution of the way we want to play. And we come up against a side this week that clearly grand finalists from last year. Got run over in round 1, but have had 2 really strong performances since. You go over to their home patch, and we know that that's a pretty hard place to come away with the points with. But we believe that we're starting to put a brand together that is more consistent, that we can start building belief around. And games like this give you the opportunity to do that.
What did you make of Sam Murray, rising star on the weekend? How have you made of his start to his AFL career? Yeah,
Sam's been good. Like he's come in to the footy club and he doesn't leave a lot to the imagination. You know exactly what he's thinking and how excited he is or isn't. Generally, it's the former. He's a breath of fresh air. He has a real crack at everything that we ask him to do. He's really diligent in his professionalism, and that was a significant and fair sort of reward and recognition for what he's done early for us. Still a long journey to go, and we're looking forward to seeing where it can go. But I don't think you need to watch much of our games to see that he has a crack at everything he does, and he has a few blues, but he dusts himself off pretty quick and gets back on it, which we love.
Bucks, you're 0-4 at the Adelaide Oval. Not many teams have a good record
Yeah.
there. Is it the toughest place to go in AFL footy, and if so, why?
Well, given that you've given me those stats, it sounds like it is. It's a very loud arena, which challenges your communication and your connection on field. And there's home ground advantage, like when we play home against Melbourne, for instance, and then there's real home ground advantage, and Adelaide and Port Adelaide enjoy that at Adelaide Oval. How many goals that's worth, I don't know, but we've always been a club that enjoys travelling. We enjoy the challenge of leaving the home state and galvanising together as a unit to go and get a job done and then get back. So we see that no different. We're not concerned or overawed by the challenge or the previous records or by travelling away. We look forward to the challenge.
So that difficulty in communication, specifically the Adelaide Oval, is it something that you address, or you just treat it like any other interstate?
Communication is important for us at any time, and for any team really to gel together in the moment and to be able to just check in with each other as you're playing, because often it's not the 18 blokes, it's the spaces between them that count in offence or defence. So that's really why leadership becomes important, and consistent communication across the squad becomes important. That's something that we coach really heavily. It's something the leaders drive really well. I think we're in as good a shape as we've been for a long time in that regard.
Still side bottom play better in a patch. He seems to be really.
Yeah, I think he's been an underrated player for a long time. I think he's clearly an elite player in the competition. I think the opposition have always rated him more highly than potentially the football world has, sort of outside of clubland. But we've always loved the way he goes about it, his development as a man as much as a footballer. He's a strong leader in here. And his footy does the talking. He's an exceptional talent.
Do you like the look of him up forward? Clearly he's dangerous when he gets that opportunity. Maybe does Jordan and then Daniel Wells coming back allow that opportunity to push him forward a bit?
Yeah, I think when you start getting those sort of weapons, I suppose, back on the field, you can start to utilise them in different ways. Steele's been an out-and-out wingman for most of his career, but he's sort of come into the midfield this year for us and late last year. So and we love him in there. Just get him around the ball as much as possible. He's still going to play games in the wing. He's still going to be up forward at times. Such a flexible, dynamic player. He's just a smart footballer, and can't get enough of those blokes.
Just on Wells, who played VFL this week.
Yeah.
Does he feel, what's the biggest challenge with him? He seems to take a step forward and then another one back. And does he feel he's progressing?
We hope it's 2 forward and 1 back, because then at least you're sort of over the journey, you're going the right direction. But he whets the appetite every time he trains. We clearly want to, and he wants to get some footy under him to, I suppose, to reinforce the work that he's done on the track. So 65-70% game time this week, and hoping to get another 2 or 3 games into him, whether it's at VFL or senior level, and then you're starting to become a little bit more robust, and we need to get him to that position for him and for us, so that we're confident about wheeling him out week in, week out. There's still a bit of work to do, but his diligence has been great. His application, feedback from the guys in the strength and conditioning boys and the medicos is that he's doing everything in his power, and when we see him on the track, we love it. So he's a class player. The same fixture last year against Adelaide at the MCG, he played pretty well. So we'll miss his class there, but we'll just have to share the load.
And for Solo, what's the plan for him?
Yeah, Faz is going really well. He's had 2.5 solid games. He only played a half after on the weekend of the GWS game. Playing some really good footy, and he was one of a host of forwards who had a really good game last week. His defensive pressure and his tackling's been good. Hitting the scoreboard. Had a chat to Faz this morning, and he's not far away. He's just got to keep going with that sort of form, and you keep knocking on the door. Eventually, it's a jar for you.
So it's form more than fitness for Solo?
No, his fitness is pretty good. It's just opportunity.
And Josh Smith was running pretty well today. Any
Yeah.
chance to get him back this week, or is it probably?
No, not this week. He won't play at either level this week. It's probably another 1 or 2. It'll depend what he gets in next week. We've got a 12-day break on the other side of this game for senior level. But yeah, Josh is travelling well.
Levi?
Yeah, training well. Still got a bit of work to get in. He's missed quite a bit over pre-season with that knee. We've had some complications with it that weren't expected, and we've had to go back to the specialist a couple of times to try and clear up some pain that he's still getting in that knee. The last couple of weeks have been a step in the right direction. He's frustrated, we're frustrated, but we want to see all our players be able to blossom and show their strengths and have a free run at it. And Levi hasn't had that over pre-season, but there's still a lot of this year to play out. So we're trying to make the right calls for him to get back as soon as possible. But as we always do, when he does get back, that he stays and has the capacity to influence for us.
We saw Darcy Moore running around a bit earlier. How far off Steve we see him back out on the field?
A couple of weeks, yeah. So obviously minor hammy in the GWS game. So as I said, we've got 12 days on the other side of this, and then a 4-dayer after Anzac Day. So our schedule's a little bit different, but we'll worry about that on the other side of Friday night.
You talk about the breaks. Is that what you're sort of planning for with Elliot and Fasolo? Are you planning for those now, like those short ones?
Yeah, you do. You look a little bit further out, but things can change pretty quickly. If a player pops up or a player drops out, performance. So we're not going to look any further than Friday, to be honest. So, and even when you do start looking a couple of weeks in advance, we sort of stop ourselves internally because things do change quickly. We're looking forward to taking a strong squad over. We intend to go across and perform, and we want to win. So that's what our entire focus is on at the moment. The planning sort of going forward is dependent on how we go on Friday night as much as anything.